So again, the session will be recorded, and if you prefer to keep your, actually the name won't pop up, so we're good to go. All right, we can go ahead into the next slide. And I'm going to pass it over to today's speakers. Melanie?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 3, lesson 3, eating tips for your bones. My name is Melanie Sutherland. I'm from UF-IFAS Extension, and my co-presenter today is Abigail Cray, registered dietitian from Purdue Extension. All right, let's get started. Real quick before we get started, I would like for you to share your progress in the chat box with how you're doing with your goal setting and meeting your goals. Or if you have any questions from the previous 2 weeks, you can go ahead and type those into the chat, and I'll give you a few moments to do that here.
Wendy, I don't know if you can help, but it looks like the chat is disabled, and so people are only able to use question and answer. If you could help with that, that would be great.
Sure will.
All right, let's move forward here. Okay, so in the first 2 lessons, we've defined osteoporosis, looked at your personal risk factors, talked about symptoms and causes. We've learned some basic bone biology, especially how our bones grow and continually renew themselves. We've discussed screening and medications and supplements related to bone health. And so for this lesson and in the next couple of lessons, we're going to look at how our eating habits and the nutrients we get from our diets affect bone health. So let's first take a few minutes to review controllable risk factors. Your first bone building steps were getting the facts about osteoporosis and learning your personal risk factors. So there are things that we can't change, but we can look at our controllable risk factors and make lifestyle changes that can improve and help our bone health. So, eating a diet low in certain critical nutrients, which we'll talk more about in the next few lessons, makes you more prone to osteoporosis, while eating a healthful diet can be protective for your bones. So here on the slide, you can see other lifestyle factors that affect our bone health, such as smoking and being physically inactive. Think about this for a moment. If you don't smoke, don't drink in excess, and you don't take any medications that can affect your bone health, what you eat and your activity level are the 2 most important lifestyle choices that you can make that can increase or decrease your bone health, the strength of your bones. So lifestyle choices affect about 20 to 40% of our peak bone mass in adulthood. And through these choices, we can reduce our risk for osteoporosis and low bone mass. The National Osteoporosis Foundation recommends lifestyle choices including a diet high in calcium, vitamin D, dairy foods, and regular physical activity to support maximal bone health. There is a positive association between bone mineral density and a diet high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dairy products in healthy adults. To improve their diets, most Americans need to eat more foods such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and dairy, and avoid foods, high in added sugars and salt. Adequate protein is also necessary to maintain a healthy bone mineral density. The total amount of proteins that Americans eat is adequate on average, but within the protein food group, seafood and legumes should be consumed in greater amounts, and red meat, especially processed meat, should be consumed in smaller amounts. Okay, so choosing a variety of foods that are rich in nutrients is the best way to get these bone healthy nutrients. For example, you can see on the screen here, we've got spinach, broccoli, and there's a variety of nuts and there's cheese. So these are just a few examples of foods that can help our bone health. In lesson 4, we will discuss specific nutrients that are important for bone health. But today we're going to look at how you can put together a helpful eating plan that focuses on your nutrient needs as well as your personal, family, and cultural preferences. So the only way to stick to an eating plan, even when you know that it is good for you, is to actually enjoy the food that you're eating. Okay, so as previously mentioned, a well-rounded diet is the best way to get your nutrients. And so in lesson 5, we will discuss substances in food that can enhance or limit the absorption of calcium. We're going to do an activity. So look at the handout that Wendy placed in the chat called Using My Plate in Your Life. And I'm also going to share it on my screen here for you guys. So just stick with me for a moment. Okay, so let's take a look at this handout to see what our estimated daily calorie needs are. So first, I'm going to go down and just talk briefly about activity level definitions here, just to get you familiar with these terms. So sedentary, so this is a lifestyle that includes only the light physical activity that's associated with our typical day-to-day life. Moderately active, a lifestyle that includes physical activity equivalent to walking, 1.5 to 3 miles per day at a pace of 3 to 4 miles per hour, in addition to those light physical activity associated with typical day-to-day life. And then an active lifestyle includes, walking more than 3 miles per day at 3 to 4 miles at a pace of 3 to 4 miles per hour, in addition to light physical activity associated with those day-to-day activities. So you can, look at these 3 definitions here and kind of figure out where where you fit. And then let's look at this chart. So this is our estimated daily calorie needs chart. And so you'll see over here, you've got activity levels and it's broken down by males and females. And then there's going to be age ranges. So you'll pick your age range and then you'll look over at these 3 columns, the sedentary, moderately active, and active. And from there, you'll figure out, your estimated daily calorie needs. So for example, let's look at this age range of 31 to 50 years for females, and let's look at sedentary. So the daily calorie needs for someone in that age range, a female in that age range, is going to be 1,800 calories. Okay, so you can look at that chart and kind of figure out your needs there. Let me go back to the presentation. All right. So now what I want you to do is look at the My Eating Plan chart. And so from there, I want you to see your calorie needs and then figure out the serving sizes that you need from each food group. So for example, for the 1,800 calorie that we had just talked about, for fruits, you need 1.5 cups of fruits per day. Vegetables, 2.5 cups per day. Grains, 6 ounces. Protein foods, 5 ounces, and then 3 cups of dairy. And I'm going to share just a quick visual, or actually, Abigail, will you just put that into the chat for them, the infographic? That way you guys can see a visual example of what serving size of grains, fruit, and protein looks like. All right. So now, let's see, where is the... What I would like for you guys to do is think of breakfast ideas that you can incorporate. Can you think of breakfast ideas that incorporate bone-friendly foods? So you're going to take a look at your bone building breakfast handout that was also placed in the chat. Let me see if I can get that up here on the screen. And if you have any questions so far, feel free to add those into the chat box. Okay, so can you see the whiteboard option on your screen? I'm not seeing it on mine. So what I'll ask you to do is just think about an example of a breakfast using 3 of the MyPlate food groups and just put that in the chat box for us. And think about, 3 of the MyPlate food groups that are up here. I'll give you guys just a few moments to look at this handout. Okay, I see something in the chat here. Wendy, can you drop that handout into the chat again?
Sure will.
Thank you. Okay, whole wheat toast with spinach, egg omelet, bean burrito with salsa and cheese. And Blanchie, that worksheet is now in there. Avocado toast and fruit. These are great suggestions. Yogurt with fruit medley, coconut nuts. Yeah.
I'm glad I ate lunch already. Now you're making me hungry.
Yeah, these are wonderful suggestions. All right. While y'all continue to share in the chat, I'm going to get the presentation pulled back up here. All right, whole grain cereal with milk and berries, oatmeal with banana or eggs, and a piece of whole wheat toast. All right, thank you all for putting those suggestions into the chat box. And so I encourage you to, print this handout out and just write in some of these suggestions, or, screenshot it on your phone or wherever you have it, and save these suggestions for a healthy bone building breakfast. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about vegetarian diet. So vegetarian diets are a healthy option, but without proper planning, they can be an area of concern regarding our bone health due to potential nutrient inadequacies. This does vary depending on the level of restriction seen in vegetarian diets. Vegan diets typically pose the most risk due to their highly restrictive nature concerning animal products. So low serum vitamin B12 levels have been linked to osteoporosis, osteopenia, and fracture risk. Vegetarian diets generally have higher intakes of folate, vitamin C, vitamin E, magnesium, and vitamin K. But there is limited research supporting a role for these nutrients in protecting against bone loss and fracture risk. But they are often discussed as potential bone builders. However, more research is needed in that area, and research is likely going to continue to look at those.
Right, so we're going to transition to what about supplements? Let's see if I can advance slides. Melanie, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. I gave you access, so it might take just a minute.
We are bombarded with ads and seemingly endless information about supplements on TV, internet. So are supplements something that you need to take? Everyone's needs are
Abigail,
Abigail, you got muted. You muted yourself somehow.
So everyone's needs are different. So bottom line is that if you start taking a supplement, whether it's a dietary supplement or a herbal supplement, always talk to your healthcare provider before starting that supplement. I'm not able to advance slides. You have to do that for me, Melanie. So it is true that supplementation can be useful when daily needs cannot be met through food alone. So today we're going to talk about calcium and vitamin D. And in an upcoming session, we'll talk about other nutrients that are helpful for strengthening our bones. Slide. So health institutes, as well as a registered dietitian as myself, we want to make sure that you're always thinking about food first before taking a supplement. Lifestyle choices include proper nutrition is kind of the cornerstone of bone health. as well as your overall health and preventing different chronic diseases. So if supplements are needed, think of supplements as an enhancement to your diet. It's not a replacement for proper nutrition. You know, we like to say that, you know, adding supplements to a overall poor diet, it's still a poor diet in the end. Next slide. So when it comes to dietary supplements, here's a few things to consider. First, dietary supplements typically don't prevent disease. They may help reduce the risk of some diseases. Also, unless recommended by your healthcare provider, avoid mega doses of vitamins and minerals. In this case, more is not necessarily better. Be aware of misleading claims and promises. Again, dietary supplements typically don't prevent diseases. The term natural doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. So please read labels, know what you're consuming. And research any potential interactions that you might have with other supplements and or medications that you're taking. Reach out to a pharmacist, have a conversation. And then last, you may need to time when you take supplements and medications. You know, they might need to be spaced out throughout the day to optimize absorption of the supplements and to avoid any potential interaction. Slide. Again, it's so important that we read the labels of our supplements. The supplement facts label provides a lot of information, and it's important to know, you know, what the supplement contains and how much of that nutrient or supplement that we're getting. You know, again, all of our needs are different, and so remember, discuss all supplements, including those herbal supplements, with your healthcare provider due to any potential interaction. So calcium is a mineral, and our bodies require it in a large amount and compared to other vitamins and minerals. Calcium, you can see it plays a lot of different roles. Of course, we're talking about bone health, but it helps with muscle contraction and other functions. It's so important in our body that its levels in the blood are very tightly regulated. So much so that if there is not enough calcium present in the blood, due to the consumption of calcium from our food and or from supplements, then an alert will go out and calcium will be seeped in other sources. And where is that going to be from? Well, it's going to go to our bone bank. Where do we store our calcium in our body? It's in our bones. About 99% of calcium in our body is in our bones. So if our blood level is significantly low, then our bodies then will start a process. It's called resorption. And during that process, calcium will be taken from the bone so we can have adequate levels in the blood. Now, over time, this bone resorption, if it's happening routinely over time, it will cause harm to our bones. Our bones will get weak because we don't have that calcium storage in that skeleton anymore. However, if you're consuming an adequate amount of calcium from your food and supplements, so the calcium blood level is adequate, that resorption will not happen. Because calcium is so important, even as we age, we still need an adequate amount of calcium each and every day. So you can see here on this slide that men age 50 to 70 need about 1,000 milligrams per day. Women over 50 and men over the age of 70 need about 1,200 milligrams per day. Again, think food first, unless otherwise directed by your healthcare providers to take more. All right. So there's 3 different kinds of calcium supplements that we primarily see. The most common ones are calcium citrate, calcium carbonate, and calcium phosphate. Products or supplements with calcium carbonate were traditionally the most common type of calcium that we found in our supplements. However, now they're starting to make more supplements with the calcium phosphate. So a couple things to keep in mind when you're looking at your supplement fact label and deciding which type of supplement to take yourself if your healthcare provider instructed you to. One thing to think about is that with calcium carbonate, it does need an acid to allow it to be properly absorbed in the body. So calcium carbonate needs to be taken with food. So your stomach acid can help break that down and be absorbed in the body. Calcium citrate does not require that. So a calcium citrate supplement, you could take it pretty much any time during the day. You could take it on an empty stomach. Again, you know, what supplement do I take if I was prescribed to take an additional calcium supplement? Well, again, have that conversation with your healthcare provider. But here are a few more things to think about. The products with calcium carbonate are usually less expensive. However, calcium carbonate can cause some gas and bloating with some patients. So you might want to keep that in mind. Again, like I just mentioned, calcium carbonate also needs that acid. So it can be broken down and absorbed in the body. So individuals that have less stomach acid, you know, maybe you're taking a proton pump inhibitor for reflux or heartburn, you know, you have less stomach acid. So then therefore that calcium carbonate probably would not be ideal for you. You could take the calcium citrate, which again, does not require an acid to break it down. Calcium citrate can be a little bit more expensive than carbonate. And then the other type, calcium phosphate, which we're seeing a lot more of in our supplements today, it has phosphorus with it, which for a lot of us, our phosphorus levels are already high. And unfortunately, high phosphorus levels can be detrimental to bones as well. So again, this is a conversation if you're being directed by your physician to take an additional calcium supplement that you definitely want to have with your physician and or a pharmacist. Kidney stones are another issue that tends to kind of come up when we talk about calcium supplement intake. So most calcium stones are rich in calcium oxalate, which is a calcium salt. And studies have found that higher intakes of calcium from dietary supplements are linked to a greater risk of kidney stones, especially among older individuals. But going back to that, think food first, research has shown us that calcium from food does not appear to cause kidney stones. Now, for most people, there's other factors going on that are causing the kidney stones. One key one is the lack of fluids not drinking enough water on a daily basis. So those probably have a larger effect on the risk of kidney stones than the calcium intake from dietary foods. Okay, so now we're on this slide. If your doctor does decide a calcium supplement would be beneficial, again, I just want to reiterate that calcium supplement should ideally be taken with food or a snack, afternoon snack. Again, make sure that you check the label and find out what the elemental calcium level is. It's known that our body only absorbs about 500 milligrams of calcium at a time. So if you are encouraged to take more than 500 milligrams, maybe they recommended that you take 1,000 additional each day through a supplement, then it's wise to split those doses. Take 500 milligrams with breakfast and then 500 milligrams with lunch. Another consideration is that if you're on an iron supplement, iron and calcium, they kind of like to fight for that same absorption site. So ideally take those at different times throughout the day as well. Again, you might take your calcium at breakfast and then your iron supplement, you have in the afternoon with an afternoon snack. All right, next slide. Medications, including blood pressure meds, synthetic thyroid, hormones, biphosphonates, antibiotics, calcium channel blockers, they can interfere with calcium absorption, whether it's from a supplement and or from food. So if you are taking any of these medications, again, have that conversation with your pharmacist, with your doctor for more information and recommendations. All right, the last supplement that we're going to talk about, or nutrient, I should say, not supplement, but our last nutrient that we're going to talk about today is called the sunshine vitamin. Because our bodies make vitamin D from sunlight. This is a process that starts in your skin. And vitamin D is the only vitamin that your body can make in a significant amount. And vitamin D is needed for our body to be able to absorb that calcium and that phosphorus, those two minerals that are essential for bone health. And it helps our bodies kind of deposit that calcium and phosphorus then into our teeth and into our bones. And when that happens, then we have strong bones and strong teeth, and we reduce our risk of fractures and osteoporosis. So without enough vitamin D, you will be unable to absorb calcium from the foods that you eat. Okay, so we have to have that vitamin D in our system. We have to have that active form of vitamin D in our system. So when we do consume calcium, we're ready to go. We're ready to utilize that mineral as needed. So that is why you'll see a lot of calcium supplements also have the vitamin D with it. Vitamin D comes from two sources. One I mentioned from the sunlight. Okay, so again, it starts in the skin. And then once we have that direct exposure from sunlight, then our bodies can make that vitamin D into that active form that can be utilized. And then we can find vitamin D in food sources. So there's two different forms of vitamin D. There's vitamin D3, and that is known as cholecalciferol. And this is from animal sources. So some sources that naturally have vitamin D3 is like eggs, salmon, sardines. And then we have vitamin D2, and that's ergocalciferol. And that is our plant-based vitamin D. and it's primarily in like yeast and mushrooms. But because we know the importance of vitamin D, because we need that vitamin D so we can adequately absorb that very important nutrient, calcium, we have fortified foods with vitamin D. So you might see that on a label where milk or yogurt, breakfast cereals, breads, and sometimes even orange juice has been fortified with vitamin D. Okay. The numbers that you see here on this slide, let me go through these. So the daily intake recommendation, so 600 to 800 international units per day is what is recommended for the average adult to consume on a daily basis. The upper tolerable limit is about 4,000 international units per day. Again, unless otherwise directed by your physician. If you have low levels, you might be on a higher dose than that. But that should be directed by your healthcare professional. The goal serum level, what that is referring to is that if you have your vitamin D level checked, so it's your blood level of your vitamin D, then this is the current goal recommendation for that level, is that your vitamin D level should be between 20 and 50 nanograms per milliliter. Right? People who are indoors, so they're out of that wonderful sunlight, most of the time are more likely to have an insufficient amount of vitamin D. And older adults, and then people with dark skin have less ability to produce that vitamin D from sun exposure. So they might be more prone to low levels of vitamin D. Also, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So therefore it's absorbed in the body with a fat source, but then we also store it in our fat. So individuals that are obese, they may be more likely to be vitamin D deficient. Again, because that vitamin D is in that fat, and therefore then it's not available to be in the blood where it can help calcium be absorbed and deposited into bones. Right. Again, just like calcium, medications can interfere with vitamin D absorption, and some vitamin and minerals may impact the absorption of vitamin D. Our bodies have so many complicated internal mechanisms. So it's always very wise, again, to talk to the professionals that know the different interactions between medications and supplements. So have that conversation with a pharmacist, with your physician, before you start any type of supplement. Again, whether that's a dietary supplement, a calcium or vitamin D, and or an herbal supplement. So your understanding of any potential interactions, and then like I mentioned earlier, potential timing. You know, you might have to come up with a plan to time out your supplement intake and your medications throughout the day. Next slide. Can we skip to the next slide real quick? Then I'm gonna let you come back to that. This slide just kind of summarizes or recaps what I just shared with you. So again, first and foremost, think food first before supplementing your diet. You know, if we're able to consume a balanced, well variety diet, then hopefully we're getting all of our nutrients from our food. But if you do need to add nutrients through a supplement, just make wise choices. Again, have those conversations with your healthcare providers. And when it comes to calcium, you know, especially those that are prone to kidney stones. So next week, remember, we're going to build on this topic of nutrients that affect our bone health. So we will be talking about more nutrients and give you more information about nutrition for bone health. Melanie, you want to finish us up?
All right. Yes, so thank you for that. So here are just a few steps to help you remember that you can take to strengthen your bones. So remember, you want to get that adequate intake of calcium and vitamin D, do weight-bearing exercises, limit alcohol intake, and smoking cessations. So over the last 3 weeks, we've looked at our personal risk for osteoporosis. We've looked at what risk we can change. You talk to your healthcare provider about your risk, and remember that building stronger bones doesn't happen overnight. So next time you'll learn about eating tips for your bones. You'll look at eating tips for your bones and supplements. So we'll take any questions that you have now.